Good afternoon, Fraser. Let me test the audio. Can you hear me okay? Can anybody hear me? Let me check the audio is working. Lovely. Thank you, Chris. We'll give it a few minutes for a few more people to turn up, I think. Lovely. And we've got Lee here as well. Okay, we're going to give it just another minute. I think we've got about 8 or 9 people in here, and we'll get started very, very shortly. So I hope everyone's having a good afternoon. I hope you've been enjoying the content. If there's any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll try and keep an eye on that as I'm talking, and we'll get started in just a minute or two. Okay, lovely. We've got a good number of people, so let me get started. So first of all, good afternoon, everybody. My name is RossCooper Smith, one of the principal engineers here at Tintri in the enterprise sales engineering team. I'm here to talk to you around the storage aspect of digital transformation and how Tintri storage can help reduce some of your workloads and help ease some of these projects. So let me share my screen. We'll make sure that everything is working as expected, and we'll get going from here. So can everyone see the slides okay? Is that coming up clearly? I'm going to assume they're coming up okay. No one's shouting at me to say it's broken. So I'm here today to talk about Tintri Intelliflash, which is one of the range of storage solutions at Tintri. As described by Paul Haddo earlier, it's the Swiss Army knife of storage. Very, very flexible, very capable solution for delivering lots of different types of storage, lots of different projects. Where this becomes relevant when you're talking digital transformation is a digital transformation project classically is made up of 3 core elements. You've got the people, process, and technology. And within the technology aspect, you've got all of the underlying infrastructure and hardware. You've got the software and the environment. You've got the software development that's being written. There's an awful lot of aspects in that technology area. There's a lot to focus on. Regardless of the project, there are lots and lots of different areas that are going to need time and effort and attention if it's going to be a successful project. One of our goals at Tintri is reducing the amount of time you need to spend on the underlying hardware, on the infrastructure. You find in almost every team around the globe, if you look at the aspects of IT today, you look at the impact that we've had with, bear with me, there seems to be a timer going. If you look at the impact that modernization has had, the impact of cloud, multi-cloud, hybrid clouds, containerization, teams are typically managing more and more and more types of resource. So that technology aspect, that one of those 3 pieces that you need to focus on for digital transformation, is soaking up a huge amount of time and resource within the knowledge base, within the experts in the business. And the challenge is that unless you can free up that time, you don't have the attention needed to focus on the process, to have the technology experts properly engaged all the way through, to give them the time they need to understand the business process, the business goals, to educate the people. And this is all important for any digital transformation. You've got to have the resource within your estate, within all the different stakeholders of the business. And time is really one of the key things that we deliver at Tintri across the Intelliflash range and VM Store. If you look at some of the quotes from some of our customers, across the board, you'll see comments from our customers of the amount of time it's freed up. We've got customers quoting that. We've actually got one customer in particular stated Tintri was the best employee in his team. We freed up so much time on the infrastructure side, it was equivalent of 2 full engineers worth of time to actually focus on the business and the projects and those digital transformation activities. Lovely quote there from Darren over at the Southeastern Healthcare Trust. They're running over 2,500 virtual desktops. This is a major healthcare, and they don't need to spend time on their infrastructure. That is the end goal of what we do. And if we look at I'm going to pause a second. I'm going to come onto the feature set in a second. I'm going to talk a little bit more about digital transformation first. One of the key things of a project is there are normally lots of different elements of one of these transformation projects. You will have the underlying core data, you'll have virtual machines, there'll be a development environment. These days, very often, a lot of that has to happen remotely. There may well be a VDI, a virtual desktop element as well. And these are all items that traditionally would be complete business projects in their own right. So there's typically lots of different requirements, lots of different moving parts, a lot going on. And this is where really Intelliflash starts to come into its own. As a storage solution, this is a very, very flexible platform. It's able to cope with almost any modern workload, whether you're talking VDI, whether you're talking databases, whether you're talking software development, file sharing, containerization, virtual workloads. This genuinely is a single platform that can cope with all those different requirements with minimal effort to actually manage and administer, and taking minimal time on the back end. Some of the largest storage organizations in the world actually use this as their primary enterprise platform. So Western Digital actually have Intelliflash as their storage array of choice. Over 79 arrays across 13 data centers. It's running everything from their production lines, their Splunk systems, virtualization. Essentially, pick a workload, there's an Intelliflash platform sitting at the heart of it. And if we were talking storage 4, 5, 6 years ago, what you see on screen today is where the conversation would be. We'd be talking features, we'd be talking capabilities, we'd be talking hybrid flash, NVMe, ultra high performance, multi-protocol, data protection. The reality these days is you don't have the time to focus on this. Very few enterprise teams these days have a storage specialist or storage specialist team. They don't spend much time on the storage. If you're talking to a development team or an application team around how they deploy a new project and whether they're going to a storage team or going to a storage array and provisioning storage and configuring that, doing all that work up front, they'll tell you, no, we don't touch the storage. We go to VMware, we go to Hyper-V, we go to Azure, we create a virtual machine or container, and in a couple of clicks, we're done. And at no point did anybody go anywhere near the storage. And that's the reality of the modern world. The modern storage array needs to fade into the background. It needs to be something that you can deploy, that's going to do the job, and that's not going to need time and effort to manage. And that's exactly what Tintri Intelliflash is all about. These days, almost everything is going to be all flash. One of the big benefits of traditional hardware on-premise over the cloud is that you still get much higher performance. You get much better return on investment in that the TCO, the total cost of ownership over the 3, 4, 5 year period still is significantly lower for almost every major enterprise for running their own hardware on site. Some of the large accounts that we talk to have actually done their own case studies. They've done an ROI comparison of the cloud services they're consuming from Azure, from Amazon, from Google, comparing that to the internal cloud they're built on physically owned infrastructure. And the running costs and the overall costs of that internal cloud are 6 to 8 times lower than public cloud. So there's absolutely still a place for physical infrastructure and running things in-house. Most days, though, that is now all flash. So you're not talking racks and racks of storage, huge amounts of resource. You're talking a small appliance that can be deployed in 30 minutes or less. One of the primary goals now is the storage has to be easy to use. The expectation is that once this has been deployed, you're going to be leaving this alone for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months or more. You've not got the time to go on a 2-week training course to learn how to manage and tune and get the most out of the storage. It's got to do that for you. So you need an intuitive user interface with Intelliflash. It's HTML5, it's wizard driven. I could honestly teach a storage team how to manage this in under an hour. Going hand in hand with that, you need that confidence that you can leave that array alone and focus on the more important projects. And every single storage array from Tintri comes with remote monitoring as standard. So Intelliflash, VM Store, they have 24/7 coverage as standard for every single customer globally. That includes all the standard hardware failure monitoring. So if a hard drive fails, a fan, a power supply, they'll open a support ticket automatically. We'll get engineers and parts sent out straight away. It includes proactive monitoring. So we're now moving to cloud monitoring and trending and using data, using this analytics and intelligence, so that if we see signs that a drive within your array is likely to fail in the near future, again, that's going to trigger an alert to the support team. They're going to get in touch, and we're going to make sure that replacement happens smoothly before a failure even occurs. All designed to focus around just peace of mind and allowing you to deploy this, leave it alone, and focus on the other aspects of the project that you need to invest the time into. One of the big uniques for all of the solutions from Tintri is we have this native understanding of virtual machines in the storage array. To this day, we are the only dedicated storage solution that has this capability, whereby you can deploy virtual machines from VMware, from Hyper-V, and you can see the performance of an individual virtual machine in the hardware in real time and historically. Where that comes into play for digital transformation and software development is it allows you to see the impact of changes. It allows you to identify whether you have sufficient performance, whether there are any bottlenecks. You can see whether a change that's been made with the latest sprint or the latest code push, whether that's had a positive or negative effect on the performance of the applications. Having that data is really, really important for that continuous development, that continuous improvement cycle. And it can help with troubleshooting. So if there is a slowdown, you've rolled out an update to the application and users are now complaining things have gone slowly. Well, is that down to the fix? Is that down to a hardware issue? If you can only see performance at the hypervisor layer, which is what you get with most solutions, you're not able to troubleshoot effectively. The challenge you have is if you see latency at the hypervisor, that can be caused, talking as a hardware engineer, by any of a dozen different components. It can be the hypervisor host itself, it can be a network, it can be a network cable, it can be a switch, it can be a storage controller, a drive. There's literally a dozen different elements in that chain. If you can only see the latency at the very top level, the team have to do all of the work and investigation, looking into all the different levels to find out where that's coming from. When you have visibility of both sides, so you can see the performance happening in real time at the storage array for a particular application, and you can see the application itself in VMware or vCenter or the container systems, you can troubleshoot much more effectively. You can see instantly, we're having a performance problem right now. Is it the hardware? Yes or no? In seconds, you can answer that question. Do we have a hardware problem, or actually, is it something in the software stack? Do we need to roll back one of the changes we've made recently? So really important for productivity. It sounds like a simple feature, but day-to-day for productivity, it's really, really useful to have, especially when you've got rapid development cycles going on. You've also got single pane of glass management. So again, larger systems may well be multiple sites, even multiple countries. There can be lots of data centers involved, lots of different territories. It's very important, again, to have a single console so you can manage that effectively, manage it efficiently. And one of the other challenges that enterprises normally face is that over time, projects become more and more complex. It's very rare to find an organization where the requirements today are the same as they were last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. 2020 was an extreme example of that, but it's been true for decades. The needs of the organization today may be very, very different to the needs in 3 years' time. So you need to have that flexibility. And what you see very often in enterprise in terms of the infrastructure is that most enterprises are running a wide range of different types of infrastructure, different solution, because they're needing to deploy different arrays, different capabilities for different projects. One of the core strengths of Intelliflash is we've got so much range and scope within the platform that we genuinely can meet almost every use case within an organization from the same systems. So it keeps things simple again. It means you're not having to spend time learning and managing lots of different systems. The simpler you keep your estate, the less time you're investing in hardware, the more time you have for projects and higher level activity. And the final piece, which is really important in this day and age, is the secure user interface. This is secure by design, has been for many, many years. And combined with hardware snapshots means you're protecting yourself against ransomware, encryption viruses, modern threats. Unfortunately, it's something that we have to discuss every single time we're discussing storage today. 2-3 years ago, this would be an afterthought. It really wouldn't be a focus. These days, unfortunately, ransomware is such big business. It has to be considered as part of every project. You have to consider, are your applications, are your systems hardened? Are they able to cope with an attack? Are you able to recover quickly and efficiently? The reality is, for 2021, ransomware is expected to be a $20 billion global business. That is the impact it's having to businesses across the globe. In the UK alone, the estimated impact, I believe, is £365 million that ransomware is expected to cost businesses this year. It's a very significant risk, and it's got to be considered as part of any transformation project. It's one of these factors you need to include. On the hardware side, Intelliflash has a wide range of defenses against this. One of the primary ones is that because we have so much intelligence in the array, because we minimize the amount of time we need to spend managing the storage, we also minimize the attack window. That window of time when you're logging in to make changes is very, very small, very low on Intelliflash. So we're freeing up time within the team, and at the same time, we're also helping to secure your estate. The primary management console of Intellicare is also a read-only interface with no access to data. Because we've adapted that to the way the modern business works, that again is inherently secure. It's going to guard against things like spear phishing attacks, which you'll find very rarely is covered on the hardware side. The storage snapshots, they're instantaneous. They're going to keep a point-in-time copy of your data. They're going to keep the business data safe, and it's really important to run those in parallel to backups these days. And the final piece, which I've mentioned a couple of times then, is just that flexibility. It's that ability to handle different workloads, handle different phases of the project as it progresses, to handle both that high performance that you might need day one or the high performance that you need for the primary application, but also that long tail of data where you may be keeping data as part of the project for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, even longer with some clients. So you need that ability to balance both very high performance requirements with also just cost-effective storage needs. And with Intelliflash, we meet this by having a broad range of different price points and performance layers within the same platform. So we start with hybrid storage at the entry level. These range from typically 15 terabytes to half a petabyte or more. The T-Series All Flash is ideal for small development environments, VDI, remote access, great way for teams to collaborate as part of the project. The most popular for primary enterprise, once you're actually in deployment, is the high density flash. As projects are getting larger, as data capacities are growing, the high density flash drives are much more cost effective than they were a few years ago. There's much more value for money from the larger 4, 8, 16 terabyte drives. You also tend to get a lot of benefit from dedupe and compression, particularly during software development. While software is being developed, very often there are multiple copies, multiple developers working on the same aspects. Data reduction, dedupe compression can reduce the amount of infrastructure you need to actually perform those development tasks by a factor of 3, 4, 5 or more. Very significant cost savings by having that technology built in. Every one of those models is designed to have flexibility long term. So there are no forklift upgrades with the Intelliflash range. If your needs change or you need more capacity, There's no need to shut these arrays down to change out the controllers or update the controllers so you can go from, say, development to production. You simply expand by adding expansion shelves as you need. You can expand capacity with Flash, you can expand with Hybrid. That flexibility even extends to the NVMe range. So the ultra high performance flagship range, NVMe primary storage, can still accept Flash or Hybrid expansion shelves. The new range as well, sitting alongside for now, is the H6000. These are ultra high density, so not often used for digital transformation. These tend to be established data sets. These are starting at 0.5 petabyte and scaling up from there. But every single model in that range, whether you're talking a few terabytes of Flash as a development environment, whether you're talking ultra high performance NVMe for a mission critical application, whether you're talking the bulk data archive, every single one is running the same firmware, the same feature set, managed the same way. You've got the automation built in, you've got that remote access and remote monitoring. So every single array here for every different project, whether you're talking primary virtualization, whether you're talking containers, whether it's a file share or an object store as the bulk archive, the repository for your applications, whether it's the VDI for providing remote access to developers. So you can work remotely, you can work from home on the same project, on the same data set. All of those capabilities can be delivered from the same platform, and we're genuinely a primary choice for every single one. So you're not having to compromise on one need for another. You're not having to spend a lot of time managing the hardware. You can deploy this, leave it alone, free up the time within the team to stop micromanaging the storage and actually focus on the business, focus on the people, focus on the process that's actually needed to have a successful digital transformation project. And that's the content from me today. I'll pause a few minutes. Let's see if we've got any questions from the audience on Intelliflash or any particular questions around digital transformation, particular projects people have had, particular challenges. The focus of this session very much is storage and the back end, but we're happy to take questions on any of the topics from today. Okay, I'll stay here for a few more minutes just in case anyone's a slow typist. But I think there are no questions coming through. So if I just remind everybody, the next session is on at 4 o'clock. I believe that is in the main stage, where Lee, I believe, is delivering the session on compliance and risk management. So 5 minutes time. If anyone would like a break, take 5 minutes and you can join Lee in the center stage at 4 o'clock. So thanks everyone for attending and have a good afternoon.